Hello, this is Roland, and today I want to continue reading from Madame Guyon's famous A Short and Easy Method of Prayer. I'm reading from a version translated into English, and the editor is Donna C. Arthur, and it's entitled Experiencing God Through Prayer. I'm reading from chapter 3. And Madame Guyon says she's talking about beginning this prayer that she talks about. And I like to call it sitting still or becoming still and experiencing God. You're not going to experience God unless you become still. Now, most of us are always talking and we're always thinking. We're pulled away with our thoughts. Your imagination. Usually most people spend most of their time lost in the endless loop of their imagination and thoughts, thinking about what they're going to do, what they're going to eat, where they're going to go, what happened, what he said, what she said, what this problem, that. See what I mean? Well, consider it to be pulled away from the present. You see, Einstein, for example, postulated that the laws of physics work in any frame of reference. If the laws of physics work in any frame of reference, then there's no particular rest frame within this material universe in which we live. And there is a constant, and it's the speed of light. God deemed it that way. But there is a rest frame for reality, what is, and it's our Creator. Yes, He is beyond time, beyond space, but there is that rest frame. And you can find that rest frame by becoming still with your soul. Now, how do you do that? Well, by not rushing away with every thought. See, your thoughts carry you away. Imagine that you're sitting quietly on the bank of a river watching the water flow by. But then you jump into the water and you're swept away. You see the difference? So you must find the secret, and it's not hard to sit. Well, it is hard for most people because they don't want to sit still. Because if you sit still, you experience reality. So, and I'm smiling because I'm thinking that for most people, experience reality is usually, they experience it when they get a wake-up call. You know, the morning after the night before, and you say, what am I doing here? You know, or what did I do last night? Or you look at your boyfriend's iPhone and you find out he's got another girlfriend. He's got phone numbers and pictures of her and everything. That's a wake-up call. See what I mean? It's unpleasant. Or somebody gets cancer. It's a wake-up call. So, but most of us, we avoid the wake-up call. We don't want a wake-up call. So we avoid reality. So reality is a rest frame where you're close to God and you're quiet. In other words, you're not floating away with thoughts. You're the observer of thought. So you're sitting quietly. And the way I say it, that makes it so easy, is that you close your eyes and look at the little pixels of light on the inside of your eyelids, little patterns of light, a little glow of light. You watch those. You look at them. When you do that, do you notice that when you look at those little pixels, if you're sitting right now in your room in front of the computer or on your sofa, or sitting out on the porch, or in your bedroom, or laying in your bed, why, you can close your eyes and then look at those little patterns of light, little sparkles of light. But when you do that, the thoughts are gone. The endless loop of thoughts are gone. Then at the same time, you can become grounded in your body and extend this spiritual light that you are in to your body by becoming aware of your hand. I talk about it all the time. I have a little meditation. It's free. You should get it. Practice it. So now you are the observer of thought. You're no longer, you're not your thoughts. You're the observer of thought. And the observer of everything. And you're no longer subject to the thoughts. Now you're the observer of them. When you're totally lost in thoughts, you're subject to them. For example, if you get really angry at your boyfriend or your husband or your wife, you get really angry, or at work, you find out that a coworker who's not doing as much as you are is getting paid more than you are, so you get really angry. Then what? You get lost in the thoughts. You know what I mean. And you're totally subject to them. In fact, those thoughts begin to affect you. Your heart begins to pound and your blood pressure goes up and you become angry and you become nervous and you become tense, lost in those thoughts. You see? You are subject to them. Or how about when you're asleep and having a bad dream? And then all of a sudden, there's a tiger chasing you in your dream and you're running and screaming in your dream and you wake up. But then when you wake up, now you're no longer subject to the dream. So you don't want to be subject to your thoughts. See? And forces. Yes. When you were a little child, you became aware of scary things. Yeah, you did. And you sort of sensed that there were scary things around. That's why maybe when your closet door was open, there was a dark space there. You didn't like it. You closed your closet door. See, or you had a little stuffed animal you kept with you. You somehow sense that there are scary things. You can't see them or hear, but they're there. Well, they are there. And you know what? You know how they influence people? Through the imagination. That's right, and through thoughts. So you don't want to be subject to thoughts and then possibly subject to the scary things. So instead, you are the observer of thought. So there's a thought, okay, you observe it, and it goes away. And then you look at the little pixels on the inside of your eyelids again, and then all of a sudden, here comes another thought, and you notice it. And then you're back in the present again, sitting quietly, aware of your hand, noticing the little light on the inside of your eyelids. And then another thought comes along, and maybe this one pulls you away for a little while. You start drifting away, thinking about what you're going to do, what you're going to have for lunch. Then all of a sudden you notice something makes you aware that you were lost in thought, and then you snap out of it, and then you're back in the present again. So who are you subject to when you're sitting quietly in that rest frame of your Creator? Who are you subject to there? You're subject to Him. It's beautiful. And He is a good king. You know, a king is nice. A good king. And there have been good kings in history. Well, God is a good king. It's nice. It's like having a good father. A really, really, really good father. And when He's there, everything's okay and you feel secure. That's right. So you're subject to Him. Now, we're reading from Madame Guyon. So that's what she's talking about. When she's talking about prayer, she's talking about becoming still in such a manner as I just described. She says it differently than I do. Maybe if you were sitting with her, she might even say something like what I'm saying. But in this book, she writes it in this way. She says, then when you are ready, continue on with the second petition, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So, like I was saying earlier, you don't need a lot of words. But you're aware that God is present, the Father is present, and you want Him in your life. See, for the most part, up until we're ready, we don't want him in our life. We don't want to be subject to what he says. We want to do our own thing. We want to do whatever we feel like, when we feel like it. And we get away with it for a while. But then, eventually, the piper has to be paid. And besides, those of us who love truth and love what's right, we don't feel good about it. So we storm, we get angry, we say mean things, we take drugs, we eat too much, we smoke too much, we escape into work, we're phony with other people, we avoid, see, all these things we do. But somehow we don't feel right about it. So at some point when you're ready, then you want him in your life. And so thy kingdom come, thy will be done. You want him in your life. You want to know the truth. You are willing to admit when you've made some error. And you yearn to know the purpose for your existence. His will. You want to do his will. You want to, see what I mean? Now you don't put it into words. That's just, it's a yearning of the heart. That's all. Yeah, you could say it. But this time you really mean it because it's coming from the heart. So she says, when you're ready, you can have that as your yearning. Ask God to accomplish in you and through you his will on earth. Surrender your freedom and will unto his hands to be disposed of as he pleases. When you find that it is God's will for you to be loving, you will desire to love. You will seek him first for his love in which to love others. That's right. See, right now you don't have any love. You don't even know what love is. You think you do, but you don't. You don't have any love. But when you abide with him, then his love can come through you. And you will feel his love, and others will sense it. And for you, mainly, it's patience. You express his love as patient. You're patient. You abide with him, and then you're patient. People do things, and you see what they're doing. You don't resent them, you don't hate them, you don't react. You just see. Don't burden yourselves with frequent repetition of set forms or studied prayer. See, it's a burden. And it's just words. Now you could put on your iPhone some recorded thing, or go to some YouTube, put it on, and there it is, words. No, you don't need words. You don't burden yourself. It gets in the way. It's a distraction, and the hand of man is in it. It's always somebody else's idea, somebody else's plan. No, you want God's plan. How do you find God's plan? Just become still. When you come to a verse, give us this day our daily bread, place yourselves as a sheep before your shepherd. Look to him for your food. O divine shepherd, feed your flock with yourself. You are indeed our daily bread. See, she has understanding. See, it's not the words, but it's the meaning of it. You intuitively grasp what these mean. You don't even have to say them. You see it? Yes. And that's enough. Tell the Father all about your family needs, but do so remembering that the one great principle of faith, God is within you. Just know that he's there. And yearn for that. And be patient with other people. See how simple it is. As you pray, don't form an image of God in your mind. All our imaginings of God amount to nothing. Yes, that's correct. God does not abide in images, including images of the imagination. So just learn to sit still, and then And then go about, practice your little meditation, then go about your life. And be patient with other people. And watch your thoughts. Don't fall into them. Yeah, you will. You will. It'll be a continuous process for the rest of your life once you start on this path of snapping out. You're driving along down the freeway, and all of a sudden you notice you're lost in thoughts. You snap out of your thoughts. You're walking along the sidewalk, and you're lost in some thoughts about sometimes it's the most ridiculous thing. You're thinking of what color of a shirt you're going to put on or something. Just snap out of it. That's all. Don't get angry. Don't get upset. Don't be resentful. Don't try not to see. Don't try. No effort. Just notice that you were lost in thought and then snap out. Now you're back in the present. It's that simple. She says, as you pray, don't form any image of God in your mind. See, any image that you might have is something that someone gave you. Some person, some teacher, somebody. And you don't need any images. Just a heart-to-heart, sitting still. Perhaps on some, she says, you may, however, remember Jesus Christ in his birth or crucifixion, provided you always seek him in his resurrected state. So that's very interesting. Yes, Christ said at the Last Supper, he took the bread and he said, eat this, remembering me. And he took the wine and he said, drink this, remembering me. And he said, whenever you do this, whenever you eat, remember me. So yeah, you can remember him. And know that that God sent him. And be grateful. So that's very nice. That is okay. And she goes on to say, she says, perhaps on some occasion you may come to him needing a physician. Then come without mental aggravation, because he has the healing virtue of all our maladies. You have no need to exert yourself in prayer. Simply yield to God's operations within you until he completes his work. I'm not even going to comment on that. It's so beautiful, and it says it very well. As you experiment with prayer. Now, isn't that an interesting term? As you experiment with prayer. See, you don't need somebody to tell you, oh, this is the way to pray, this is what you say, this is your prayer plan for the year, here's your devotional, and here's what you have to look at and study. And no. You experiment. But experiment it has an old-fashioned sense of experience. I have a book on my shelf, and it's called Experimental Theology. It's called Experimental Theology in America. It's a beautiful book. What it's talking about is how people in the United States, many people have always liked the mystics, like Madame Guyon, for example. They've always liked her because she talks about experiencing God. So that's the idea. The old-fashioned definition of experimental or experiment is to experience. So as you experiment with prayer, see, you have to find, but it is true, it is the experience. You have to find your own way, but don't add anything extra. Don't add some other technique, some other hand of man. Don't add some posture to assume, or something to chant, or something to hum, or something to sing, or some image in the mind. No, none of that. Just quietly. What is Paul? Was it Paul or was it James? I can't remember who said it. Or Peter. They said, quietly work out your salvation. Find your own path. Delicately find your path, with God's help, of course. As you experiment with prayer in this manner, you will enjoy a deeper walk with God than you have ever known before. You will relish these times of rest and quiet in His presence. It is attainable for all of you who earnestly seek God. The only requirement is that you begin. The only requirement is that you begin. So the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And it begins when you reach a point that you're ready, and when that will be, I don't know. Where you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. You don't want to be phony with people anymore. You don't want to hate anymore. And you're searching for something and yearning for a Father you've never known, or you're yearning for something good, or you want to come clean. You just want to come clean. And then maybe you somehow stumble upon me on the radio, and then you get the little meditation. Now, some people, they get the meditation, and it just sits on their computer. Or they get one of my books, and it sits on the shelf for months or years. But then all of a sudden, when you're really ready, you open it up, you close your eyes, and you begin to meditate. And it's happened. It's begun. And it's beautiful.